Well, welcome to the next episode of Trove News. Today we're going to look at the Latin American North, in particular the recent drilling success in Guyana by CGX Energy, and also take a look at what's happening in Trinidad with the upcoming licensing round. But the focus is going to be on the Kawa 1, the latest in a long line of discoveries. So just setting the scene, here we are to the northwest region here. You can see Trinidad and Tobago. This is the eastern end of Venezuela, coming across Guyana, Suriname and French Guiana. We're really going to be focusing on the Kawa 1 discovery well, which has been in the news recently, and then looking here at the deepwater licensing round. It's called the 2021 round, although obviously that was delayed with the pandemic. But we're going to start because the history of exploration actually started with a couple of fields down here in Suriname, and of course there's been a lot of history in the oil and gas sector in Trinidad. So I think we'll start there and have a look at the forest reserve. So here's a map, the southwest corner of the country, and you can see this forest reserve field. Well, actually it's known by quite a number of different names. I think different operators, different times, different horizons. This is Pitch Lake, which is one of the fields within the reserve, and you can see that actually was a surface seep, very, very heavy oil pitch. But it was actually produced from this region from about 1908 onwards, although it's discovered a long time before that. The geology of the region is very complex, and you can see in this cross section here that we're dealing with a huge amount of detachments, thrusts and overthrusts, subthrusts. It's a very challenging area to get to understand. So this is typical of the southern part of Trinidad, and certainly not what we're dealing with when we look at the offshore regions. I don't think we'd make much sense of it with the few boreholes that we would be allowed to drill in an accumulation offshore. Going further along to the east now and into Suriname and the Tamborajo and Calcutta fields, you can see here on this map, here's Tamborajo Northwest and Calcutta. I think between them, the three fields, there's in excess of 1,600 wells. Here is a view, but basically this is kind of all drill barges going in here, probably cutting these channels or making use of natural channels and then cutting in to get to drill sites. Hopefully this will all recover. This has been going since 1982, and probably we'd be doing it somewhat differently and perhaps more respectful to the environment than was done here. There's about 1 billion barrels in place. That's stock tank oil initially in place for those non-technical folk watching this. It was discovered in 1965, actually, when they were drilling for water in a Calcutta schoolyard. But everything about Tamborajo and Calcutta, located here on this cross section, just on shore, points to the fact that the oil has been generated somewhat offshore. And we're going to be spending much of the rest of this talk looking at this region here into the deep water. There have been a number of wells drilled on the shelf, so it's not clear whether there's a significant amount of bypass in this slope region, but some of the structures that have been drilled have not been charged. But if you can manage to get 1 billion barrels in here, and that must have come from some sort of long distance migration, then it's obviously an area that's going to be very interesting. There are these sub-basins where we could have some source rock that may have matured, but if any of these are regional carrier beds under a regional seal, then it looks like there is potential up on the shelf as well. So just in the last 15 months, Within our Trove database for this region, which covers all of the countries you saw on the very first map, these are the discoveries that we have. We have details on. 5 of them are actually by ExxonMobil in the Starbrook block, but by the time this goes out, they'll probably have drilled more wells and there'll be more discoveries. But the discoveries have now extended the play right across the border into adjoining Suriname. All but one of these discoveries here, the Royston discovery, is onshore in that southern basin in Trinidad. But all the rest of these are essentially in Guyana and Suriname in that sort of very productive zone. To date, in excess of 10 billion barrels of oil has been proven, drilled and tested, and looks to be very, very economic. Large field sizes or finding clusters that could perhaps be brought together and developed, tied back into a single FPSO. It's likely that across the entire Guyana-Suriname basin, we think there's probably in excess of 20 billion barrels in this basin, and the numbers could go up from there. Here's an entry. This is for the Kawa 1 discovery from Trove, and you can see some of the material that we amass here. This is what a Trove report would look like, and if we kind of look more at the geology here, you can see there is a structural nose, and this is the outline shape of this anomaly. It's an RMS amplitude anomaly, and you can see this is what was being targeted and drilled by CGX Energy and partners Frontera. Just add here that Frontera own 67% of CGX Energy, so yeah, there is those two companies are very, very closely aligned, as you can see. A large area of 10,000 acres, and what was being targeted here was this very, very strong anomaly here. A stratigraphic pinch-out play in the sort of Santonian. Here's the Kanji source rocks underneath here, very mature at these sorts of depths. Probably very, very hot, very, very high pressure as well down here. So excellent, good quality oil. Not entirely sure what some of these anomalies are. They may be lithology effects in here. But this is a depth section shown in the bottom right, and you can actually see there is a little bit of counter-regional reverse dip. So there's maybe a sort of slight structural element to this. This is where the Kawa well, or the prospect sits at the north end of the Corentyne basin, Corentyne block, North Corentyne it's known as, and these are just some of the other prospects and leads that have been identified. There's about 27 in total that have been targeted. I think we believe that this is going to be the location of the next well coming up, the Way 1, which is going to be drilling a series of stacked plays that's going through Eocene. There's maybe Campanian, Santonian, and who knows, even deeper horizons going to be tested by that well. So we wish CGX Energy every success there. To date, we don't know what the hydrocarbon bearing sandstones, what that consists of. It's yet to be tested, I would imagine, or we'll find out soon. And when we do, there will be updates put on this YouTube channel. So the region is covered with 3D seismic, but as well as that, CGX, they've got this Demerara block. There are prospects on here identified on the map here, and even potentially an extension of Tullow's Joe discovery across the area. Now, we think there's ongoing negotiations because Demerara block was due to the license was due to expire around about now, so I'm sure the terms are being renegotiated, and hopefully efforts will continue to keep exploring in this region here. This is a great section that comes from CGX Energy, and what it shows is it shows here the shelf region some carbonates being built out onto the shelf. But generally speaking, fluvial, deltaics, some nearshore deposits, all building out over time. The Berbice Canyon, a very, very significant feature, has been the Paleo Berbice River drained a huge area of eastern Venezuela, as well as throughout much of Guyana, and all kind of emptied out. Today there are sort of three separate rivers, but all part of that same complex in there. There's the Corentyne and the Essequibo, as well as the Berbice. And then we can see that all of those river systems through time, and they have been there for maybe 100 million years, they've actually been shedding the sediments from inland in South America, and shedding them out here, and it built out. And as we come into this deep water region now, the discoveries are starting to be made in these deep water fans, these turbidites, and that's where a lot of the attention is. The source rock down here is probably this Turonian aged Kanju formation, but also potential for source rock in the Albion. We've got essentially bunches of slope fans and basin floor fans, proximal and distal fans, that have all been targeted, and some of these have associated DHIs, AVOs, and so some of these anomalies are indeed targeted. Wells like Jaguar 1 didn't quite get down, had a lot of problems drilling down to get into some of these potentially deeper sands. They had to give up drilling. An opportunity to go back and revisit some of these targets now that everything's getting calibrated, a better understanding. CGX we spoke of, you can see that their share price, and this is in the last few weeks, it has jumped significantly. But I mean, CGX have been in Guyana and focused for somewhere in the region of about 3 decades now. They have 3 blocks. These are the entries from Trove for each of these blocks. So you can see at a block level we have information, and for every one of these discoveries we'll have a single page. The company is also involved in actually building and operating a deep water port. So really looking at the infrastructure, the whole supply chain, and recognizing that Guyana and Suriname are going to be very, very significant oil and gas basins in the decades to come. So a quick look at the other entries in here, varying degrees of information that we might get, but you can see that here are the entries for some of the nearby discoveries, and this one's the Liza discovery, and what you can see, we even got kind of the most up-to-date information on sort of the infrastructure. This is going to be the second FPSO, which is due to be deployed imminently, and it's a great sort of look-back opportunity to see how things developed through time. And question, well, what's this page going to look like in 2 to 5 years? We're going to have a sort of a historic look back, plus all the developments as we go through time. It's going to be a lot bigger, and Trove is growing all the time. So what next? I mentioned the Way 1. That's going to be drilled on this stacked play here. Liza 2 FPSO is kind of commissioning right now. Other wells coming up, well, we carry many of the prospects in the region, both in Suriname, in Guyana, and indeed in French Guiana and in Trinidad and Tobago. So we expect there's going to be lots more drilling activity in the coming years. This is the sort of summary, so you can see that we number of assets, fields and discoveries primarily that we look after in here. A lot to be learned from Trinidad and Tobago, and whereas that onshore region we looked at, the thrust zone, is not typical. When you get into the offshore region, the Columbus Basin and deep water, far more conventional sort of post-riff, passive margin type developments in there. Guyana, I mean, a few years ago, this would have been down in the sort of less than half of that. Suriname's really taken off. We're not covering much of Venezuela at this time, just some of the offshore blocks. We're not concentrating. If there's a demand for that, we will actually add. But at this stage, because of the difficulties with accessing opportunities in that country, we aren't carrying it forward at this time. And in French Guiana, we've got a lot. There's a few of the gas fields, some of the very huge gas fields that basically are cross the boundary between Venezuela and Trinidad. Operators in the region, I mean, you can see some of the players here. We're only showing every second name in this particular outfit, but when we drill down into this, we'll see all the other names involved. We've got 117 oil fields and discoveries. Gas, we've got a number of undrilled prospects and then you can see down here various aspects. We've got basically quite a number of fields that have been drilled, many of the discoveries that haven't yet been brought forward for field development plans. We've got about 88 producing fields. Many of those are in Trinidad. Currently, there is only one in Suriname, but there's lots of learnings, particularly as we look across into Trinidad. And then some of the onshore fields, or some of the fields in Trinidad, have actually ceased production. The ages we've got, I mean, generally everything in the region is either Cretaceous, and there are some tertiary, one or two that have both tertiary and Cretaceous stacked bays. The basins we look at, you can see that the main ones are the Guyana, Suriname, and the Columbus, but we do have all these other basins that are covered. And you can see the split here. The majority of the wells that are in Trove, or the major discoveries, are actually offshore. Typically, what you get, in the region is, you'll get a section on the stratigraphy, and this is sort of generalized stratigraphy for going from the shelf right out to the deep water basins. But this is a sort of snapshot, a thumbnail of all the different stratigraphic, chronostratigraphic, lithostratigraphic, all of the schemes. So if you can't find it on this one, which is shown here, there's many other sort of stratigraphic columns and interpretations that we use across the region. Moving on then to the deep water Trinidad, the 2021 licensing round, as it's known. Well, you can see that this in the region, these are the fields discoveries through time. Many of these are actually onshore, so they're actually here as just a zero water depth, and quite a number of shallow water discoveries that were made. This one is actually an ODP well, the deep ocean drilling. And then this one is ZS over in French Guiana, the first sort of discovery made by Shell here back in 2012, I think it was. But then you can see really since 2016 that deep water drilling has really taken off, and the vast majority of these are discoveries going down to 3,000 meters water depth. So it's it really is a very recent phenomena, a recently opened up basin, and I'm sure this is just going to get even busier in the coming years. So for Trinidad, at the minute, there are a number of blocks outlined here in orange, which are going to be in the licensing round, which is ongoing. Here's showing the PGS data set in this region. And we can see that there's lots of opportunities to get some regional lines and sort of understand what's going on in the region. These are the blocks again. The highlighted area, this is where BHP have made a number of deep water discoveries, and in blocks 14 and 23A. Here's a quick look at them. Took, Hi-Hat, Bongus, and Belay are just examples, and lots of work ongoing. So is there a critical mass here to actually go forward with the development? Well, I'm sure BHP are looking long and hard at that. In terms of the bigger picture, well, not only do we see this the impact here, but in West Africa, when we actually put the continents back together, we can actually take any learnings from here and what's happening and understand and apply these plays over on the East Atlantic region. So Trove covers every offshore field and discovery in the world. So we have troves that will cover this entire region here. A significant percentages of the hyperlinks that we've actually managed to put together over the years get broken within a few years, so you can't go back. We're finding things, or you'll find things in Trove that are no longer available out on the internet. So it is a good idea to kind of come and have a look and see what we have. Other resources, well, I really like this talk here that was given by Christine Guerrero just at the end of January 2022. A nice look at CGX Energy as a company, and Christine's got a drilling background, and these videos hopefully complement one another. Coming soon, we're going to have more technical detail on breaking international oil and gas news and stories. So what we recommend is that you hit the thumbs up, the subscribe button, and also ring the bell. You'll get notified when we actually update, and we're intending to put these out very regularly, and with all the major breaking news stories, using basically the information we've already collated in Trove to give the necessary background. If you would like to get in touch, there's my email address. The website is there for you. Thank you ever so much for listening. Look forward to the next video, which should be out in just a few days' time. Bye for now.